4.1 to go. Warriors up 3. Here we go. Cunningham throws out to Beasley. Deep 3 on the way. No good. Looney rebound. Ball game over. The Warriors escape Motor City with a win.
Good way to put it, Tim. That was Tim Roy here on 95.7 The Game. Warriors escape. But hey, beggars cannot be choosers. And as of right now, the Warriors are the beggars. They have been struggling to get wins of late. They got to win tonight, though, so no need to be upset. We can be a little frustrated how difficult it was down the stretch, but a win is a win is a win. 107-104, the final score. Warriors in Detroit knock off the Pistons. They led by 18 points with 5.5 minutes left, and then it went down to the final possession of this basketball game. The Warriors led 98-80 with 5:30 left in the fourth. Detroit got back within 2 with 23 seconds left, and they had the ball down 3, and Malik Beasley, who's a hell of a three-point shooter, had a really good look in the final couple of seconds, just missed it. Warriors get the rebound. Ball game over. 107-104 is the final score. Welcome into Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Randy with you here on 95.7 The Game. It wasn't easy. It wasn't always pretty. But again, a win is a win. The Warriors avoid falling below 500 once again. They're now 19-18, and they begin this 4-game road trip with a victory. Doesn't matter how it comes, as long as it does come, and it certainly did tonight. 107-104 is the final score. Warriors in Indiana tomorrow. I would imagine we will not see Stephen Curry in that game. Then Toronto on Monday, Minnesota on Wednesday to wrap up this 4-game trip. But you begin the trip with a win. You erase the bad taste that was left in your mouth from the homestand, where you started winners of 3 of the first 4 of that 6-game homestand. Then a blowout loss against Sacramento. Miami pulls away from you in the second half when they were playing the back end of a back-to-back where they had played in double overtime the prior night. A couple of really bad losses for the Warriors. You could argue they're 2 worst losses of the season. They followed up with an ugly-ish performance. It was certainly ugly the final 5.5, but a lot to be happy about through the first 3.5 quarters of this basketball game. Ultimately, all that matters is the win or the loss, and the Warriors get the win. Again, 107-104. Welcome in to Warriors Wrap-Up. It's Mark Randy with you here on this Thursday. I'm taking a look at our text line right now, and you can shoot me a text, give me a call to join the conversation, 888-957-9570. I feel like this is how a lot of Warriors fans felt watching this basketball game. It's certainly how I felt, and I know a number of us here in the studio here in downtown San Francisco were feeling this way. The 925, a couple of hours ago, as the 925 was watching this basketball game, shot us a text, and we appreciate you tuning in as always, 925. Said, it's frustrating watching the Warriors getting ready to blow this lead. It did feel like throughout this game, the Warriors led. Generally, it was somewhere between like 6 to 14 points for a majority of this basketball game. Warriors led nearly wire to wire, but it was never really a blowout. Twice the Warriors put it up to 18. They led by 17 a separate time as well. Generally, though, they led this entire basketball game, but it was not a blowout. But you always had the sense that the Warriors, well, they're just like a 4-minute bad stretch away from letting Detroit get right back into this basketball game. And that like 3 or 4 minute bad stretch happened 3 different times, but every time the Warriors responded or they were bailed out by the final buzzer of this one, which meant no time left for Detroit to finish their comeback. But regardless, it did kind of feel like the Warriors were just treading water, but ultimately they hold off the Pistons, and again, they get a win 107-104. We're going to hear from Coach Kerr coming up later on here on Warriors Wrap-Up, but I know he had a lot of praise for Gui Santos, who was awesome in this basketball game. Steve Kerr saying that the plan was to play Gui because the Warriors, without Moses Moody, without Jonathan Kuminga, without Andrew Wiggins, of course, already without GP2 and Brandon Pajemski as well, there was going to be a role for Gui Santos. He just didn't know how Gui was going to take advantage of those minutes, and take advantage of them is exactly what he did. Gui Santos in 25.5 minutes tonight, 13 points. He was 4 for 6 from downtown, grabbed 5 rebounds, had 3 assists, had 2 steals, did turn the ball over 4 times, but you can live with him and those 4 turnovers. One was particularly rough in the fourth quarter when he tried a between-the-legs dump-off pass to Stephen Curry in the corner. Curry, instead of planting himself in the corner, was just kind of running around him and cycling out towards the wing. That's one of those 4 turnovers. But the number of extra possessions that Gui Santos created for the Warriors, absolutely worth those turnovers that Gui committed as well. I mean, without Gui Santos, the Warriors probably have like 6 fewer possessions in this basketball game just based on what he did on the offensive glass. He had 3 offensive rebounds. He had 2 steals. He had other deflections. And it was really his energy, his effort, his enthusiasm that carried the Warriors through the majority of the first half. He was good shooting the ball as well, 4 for 6 from downtown. And then you could kind of feel some of the others, even though Gui Santos is another, but a lot of the others kind of fed off the energy that Gui Santos was playing with. It led to Lindy Waters getting going. He made 3 3-pointers in the second quarter alone. Buddy Hield had himself a pretty nice night as well. 19 points, 7 of 15 from the field, 5 of 11. And this is an important win because, again, the Warriors are without Kuminga. They're without Wiggins. They're without Moody. I mean, they got absolutely like no wings left available for this basketball game. Also down GP2 and Brandon Pajemski. And you didn't even get much of a scoring night from Stephen Curry. I mean, he got 17. He made 5 free throws, but 5 for 21 from the field was Steph. 2 of 14 from downtown. 2 of 14. One of the ones that he hit was the 4-point play in the fourth quarter, which pushed the lead to 16. They would get it up to 18, and you felt like at that point this game might be over, but the Pistons, they come all the way back. They were within 2 at one point. Ultimately, they had a chance to tie with 3 seconds left, but Malik Beasley misses the game-tying 3. But, I mean, this is a Pistons team who is a quality basketball team. They're now 19-19. They're having themselves a really nice season compared to what they did last year and really like the last decade, it feels like. They have been a much, much better basketball team this year. Cade Cunningham is a blossoming superstar, not just a star, but a blossoming superstar, one of the best point guards in the NBA. Jalen Dern is good down low. Oscar Thompson is a hell of a young player as well. And you got a lot of wing scorers in Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr., who did not play with low back spasms tonight. You've got some quality basketball players. This is a quality Detroit team. And yet the Warriors get a win on the road without Kuminga, without Wiggins, without a few others, and without a really efficient shooting night from Steph Curry. So that's the positive. The Warriors beat a quality basketball team, by no means a bad basketball team. You beat a quality basketball team without maybe your second best, most consistent scorer, at least of late, in Kuminga, without Andrew Wiggins, your best perimeter defender, and maybe your third best individual scorer, and with your best scorer not having any kind of shooting night, and yet you won this basketball game. I mean, that's nice. That's impressive. No one is going to watch this Warriors win tonight and think, well, now I believe that they're legit contenders in the Western Conference. That's not what this is about. This is about the Warriors when they're nowhere near full strength, getting a win on the road when they desperately needed it, and they got that job done. Exactly right. 888-957-9570 is the number to call. It's also the text line if you want to join this conversation. I wanted to throw back to something that Steve Kerr said the last time the Warriors played a basketball game. That was on Tuesday at home against the Miami Heat. Steve Kerr talking about how, frankly, bad of a performance that was for the Warriors. I just want to play this for you, Cam, if you can make sure my hotkey pod is up there on the board. This is Steve Kerr post-game Tuesday at Chase Center after the Warriors lost to the Miami Heat, who were coming off of a back-to-back. They had just played a double overtime game and lost in Sacramento the night prior. The Warriors not coming off of a back-to-back, and the Heat ran the Warriors out of the gym. Here's what Steve Kerr had to say about his team's performance in that game on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, I expected better energy. I think we're suffering from a crisis of confidence right now, frankly. You can see it, you can feel it. You know, I don't mind missed shots, but I mind when missed shots affect the defense and the attitude. And we feel deflated right now. And there's no room for feeling sorry for ourselves in the NBA, you know, in life in general, right? We can't let disappointment dictate, you know, our approach to the game. We have to do the opposite. We have to bring more fire. We have to outcompete our opponents when things aren't going our way. And that was what was most disappointing tonight. Was I just felt like everybody was down, and we didn't have a competitive spirit. If you don't have that, you've got nothing. And so we've got to find a way to build that back up.
Yeah, and that's the key phrase from Steve Kerr, competitive spirit. That basically encapsulates everything from, you know, hustle plays and, you know, no crazy, stupid turnovers and getting your hands in passing lanes and, you know, back tapping those offensive rebounds out to an open space and diving on the floor. And Steve Kerr saying essentially he's noticed of late the Warriors, for the Warriors whose shots aren't falling, and there is a decent chunk of Warriors whose shot has not been falling of late, it is impacting their energy, their effort, their enthusiasm, their competitive spirit, and in every other way on the court. And that includes, of course, the defensive side. I think it also includes the offensive side. You're not moving around as much. You're kind of standing around in the corner. That's been a major issue for the Warriors. It wasn't an issue tonight, and it was, again, Gui Santos who led the way in that regard. And I think that sort of thing is, you know, it's something that everyone else kind of picks up on. As you see someone put that kind of effort forth, I think it's an easy thing. It's contagious, right? Draymond Green mentioned it post-game on the walk-off interview on the TV side, if you were watching and listening on NBC Sports Bay Area, talking with Fitz and Buki about how, you know, Gui Santos is the one that brought the energy, and we kind of all fed off of it after that. Like, you say you're Buddy Hield, who, even though you haven't always been started tonight in the absence of Wiggins, but generally has not been starting, and you're going through a big-time shooting slump, right? And maybe as a result, it's not super easy for you to play the most active defense that you ever have in your career. And then you're on the floor with Gui Santos, or maybe you're watching on the bench, and you see Gui Santos, who entering tonight hadn't even scored a bucket in a first half this year. Not because he's been bad shooting the ball, but because he rarely plays at all. This is a dude who essentially has not been in the rotation at all. Like a single game, he has not been in the rotation. He's played mostly in garbage time. And then he comes in, and the first real opportunity of the season that he gets, he's running around like a chicken with his head cut off. And there's no ball that he's not willing to run to sacrifice his body to try to get. And how many extra possessions did he win for the Warriors tonight? In a game where you win by 3 points, that's legitimately the difference in this basketball game. So when you see somebody else put that kind of energy and effort in, I think it's a lot more difficult for you to kind of fall back to your, you know, to your habits, which is maybe letting your shooting kind of impact the way you play defensively. And it also maybe encourages you to not be, you know, so scared about shooting sometimes. And guess what? Buddy Hield had a good shooting night as well. I'm not saying it's all thanks to Gui Santos, but you start feeling good about other aspects of the game, you kind of relax. And maybe you're not pressing. And as a result, Buddy goes 5 for 11 from downtown. And he was also a big reason the Warriors won this game. So I get it. It's the Pistons. Pistons are a much better team than I think a lot of us here out west are giving them credit for. But you're without Kuminga. You're without Wiggins. You're without Moody. You're without Pajemski. You're without GP2. Steph Curry could not hit a shot for the majority of this game. And you win on the road. It's a quality win. There's no doubt. It is a quality win. And you got it because of what Gui Santos did, effort and energy-wise. Oh, yeah, he also went 4 for 6 from downtown. All right, plenty of time for your calls here on Warriors Wrap-Up. It's Mark Randy with you on 95.7 The Game. Let's go out to Filmo Mike, who's in San Francisco, of course, wants to join us here on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's up, Filmo? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up with Mark Randy. How you doing?
Hey, man, that's how you're supposed to play, man. For real, for real. Sometimes it takes Gui Santos, a person that don't really play, to show you the hustle. But not only that, he's young. So he got you feel me? He got the bounce, he got the juice. And I don't want Kerr to just go back to playing anybody, but you can see he was a spark. I was watching some old clips of the Warriors. They needed like a little Brian Cardinal, a little OG Earl Boykin. Somebody coming here with a little bit of spark, man. And then also they could take this. It's a very encouraging win because they could take this win. Steph Curry wasn't Steph Curry tonight. He was F Curry tonight. You know what I'm saying? He really didn't give you much tonight. So therefore you can win. If Steph have a great game, you can win. If Steph have a horrible game, you can win. But you know what you got to do? You got to hustle. You got to show some grit. You got to show some determination, and you got to will yourself to victories and win. I'm so happy Gui Santos got a chance to play tonight, and I just hate to say this, but Kerr, it's like sometimes he find these gems because he don't never play them. It's because of injury. Bruh, start filling your team out and just saying, like, man, I need some Gui Santos energy. And then TJD, keep playing, keep balling, bro. Don't even worry about the outcome of the game. He's so young. Just keep balling. And he dunked just like his dad. He just dunked all hard and stiff. I love it.
Yeah, Philmo. I mean, TJD had himself a pretty nice night as well. Appreciate the call as always, Philmo. Thanks for tuning in. You're bringing me back to like one of the first Warrior teams that I remember. Brian Cardinal, shout out the custodian, a Warrior for 1 year, 2003, 2004. Crazy. That's already over 20 years ago. I remember that year, and it was a very rough Warriors year, but Brian Cardinal, he had some moments, and I think it's a very good pull by Philmo because that's kind of what Gui Santos felt like. And I think it's interesting because the Warriors obviously are maybe not like any individual groupings are set in stone, and you don't have like a legit number two, and there are very, very clear concerns and mistakes on the roster, and you got to sort through things, and that's what I think the trade deadline is for. There is no doubt, though, the Warriors are generally a pretty deep team, so when everybody is healthy, it's difficult to find room for someone like Gui Santos, but I think the Warriors are also in a spot, and this is maybe where Steve Kerr can take on a little bit more of a... he's always been a player's coach, but you got to find some way to really get your message across. And maybe tonight, it doesn't sound great after tonight, but say Buddy Hield just has this one really good shooting game and he goes back to being 1 for 7 and Draymond Green's calling him out on the court in the middle of games or whatever. Maybe it takes benching Buddy Hield and not playing him for like 3 games in a row and elevating Gui Santos into his spot or something like that. Like, not that Gui Santos is going to be playing meaningful rotation minutes every single night, but if he's playing with that sort of effort and energy and you feel confident you're going to get that from him, and why wouldn't you? He is hungry for minutes, and at this point, whenever he gets minutes, he's going to play with that kind of fire, right? If you're really trying to get your message across and it's not working up to this point, maybe you need to take another step. Go about it in a different way. And maybe that is a benching. And it's saying, hey, watch this other guy and play like him when you get your chance next. Because who knows when your next chance is going to come. Again, doesn't seem like the best timing for it right now. 1, considering how Buddy Hield shot. And 2, considering all the other injuries the Warriors have right now. But it's clear. I mean, the Warriors are now, 19 plus 18, 37 games into this season. You are approaching the halfway point. 41 games is the halfway point. So you got 4 more games until you're officially halfway. Like, these are persistent issues, and they're not going away automatically. Maybe it takes something a little more forceful from Steve Kerr to make this a legitimate change in the style and the way with which a lot of these players play. But ultimately, Gui Santos was great tonight. Yeah, play to win. Gui Santos played to win, and he helped the Warriors get the win. I mean, he gained the Warriors at least an extra 5 possessions, 3 offensive rebounds, and 2 steals. I'd have to comb through the play-by-play to figure out exactly what of his plays were deemed offensive rebounds and what were deemed steals, because I swear to you, he had like 3 or 4 other deflections that led to possession being gained by other Warriors. I mean, his possession counter might have been more like 8 gained possessions, right? Like, he was all over the place when he was on the floor, and he ignited a lot for the Warriors in this game. It was very good to see Buddy Hield hit some shots. It was nice to see Kevon Looney get some consistent minutes in this game as well. He played really well. TJD, I still have my concerns. I might be in the minority there. You can let me know how you feel about Trayce Jackson-Davis, 888-957-9570. I still feel like I'm seeing far too many misses around the rim for him. When he's not dunking, it's not always pretty down there, but no doubt he had himself a pretty nice day tonight, and Filmo Mike is right. He does bring down the Thunder with a couple of dunks every night as well, which is always good to see. Okay, Warriors knock off the Pistons 107-104 in Detroit tonight. Time for a break here on Warriors Wrap-Up. When we come back, we got more time for your calls. Frank, I see you hang out on hold. We'll get to you right when we come back. Also, we will hear from Coach Kerr postgame in Detroit, as well as the Dubs knock off the Pistons 107-104. It's Mark Randy with you here on 95.7 The Game. More Warriors Wrap-Up next, right after this.
He got it. Santos comes right back after airballing a three to bang home another one. His fourth of the night. He has 12 points.
Now back to Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
And he would finish with 13 points. He split a pair of free throws after that, but 4 for 6 from downtown. It's one thing if Gui Santos is just making the hustle plays, right? As our caller in our first segment, Philmo Mike, said, if he's just being the custodian, Brian Cardinal from that back in the day, he's getting, diving on the floor. He's saving loose balls. He's getting offensive rebounds. He's a pest on the defensive end. That's one thing. But if you go 4 for 6 from downtown, that turns a good night into a really nice night. And it's probably reason number one why the Warriors won this basketball game. 107-104 is the final score. It was the effort of Gui Santos that I think lit this Warrior team up. You got contributions elsewhere. We'll get into that as well. We will also hear from Steve Kerr. I know he praised Gui Santos a good chunk as well. We will hear all of that coming up shortly here on Warriors Wrap-Up. It's Mark Randy with you on 95.7 The Game, 107-104. The Dubs beat the Pistons in Detroit. But as promised, out to the phone lines we go. Frank has been waiting patiently in the East Bay. Frank, what's up? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up. How you doing?
I'm blessed, man. I see that the issue is that the Warriors, when they played previously before, they played in a lackadaisical spirit. They have no faith, and faith start at the head. Steve Kerr going to have to get faith and instill that faith in them that they could jump through and jump over the moon. They got champions on their team. They play these teams that don't have champions and whatnot that know how to play this game, and they still getting beat. And then they know only thing they got to do is wait the Warriors out. Even if the Warriors have a 20-point lead, they know that their faith level is not up there to carry them through the game. They got issue with faith. They don't believe.
I appreciate the call, Frank. I'm not so sure it's a faith issue, but it is an issue of lack of attention to detail, and at times it's lack of focus. And it is, Frank, you are right that this is a team that has champions on it. Like Steph Curry, Draymond Green have both won 4 titles. Kevon Looney's won 3. Steve Kerr, of course, the head of the snake, and he's won all 4 of the titles as well. You've got all-time pieces on this roster, and for big stretches this year, the Warriors have not felt like a veteran-laden team with a ton of postseason experience. They feel more like a young team that's trying to gain a footing in the league and make a name for themselves. And I think a great example of this, and this is something that has happened for his entire career. And all right, let me just preface all this by saying Draymond Green is a hell of a basketball player. He's a future Hall of Famer. The Warriors do not win a single title without Draymond Green. I have the utmost respect for Draymond Green, the basketball player. There was a mistake that he made at the end of this basketball game that he has made probably 300 times in his career. It happens over and over and over again, and frankly, it's infuriating. So let me set the stage for you. Warriors lead 104-100 with a minute left. Okay, a minute left in regulation. Warriors lead by 4, and they have possession. As they should, they're taking a lot of time off the clock because you want to minimize the number of possessions that Detroit has the rest of the game. Okay, so you're taking a lot of time off the clock. I believe it was Schröder on the drive. He drove and kicked to Draymond Green in the right corner, and Draymond Green is wide open. Okay? There is no one even paying any attention to him. I'm not necessarily saying Draymond Green needs to shoot the ball. All I'm saying is you have to at least make the defense think that you're thinking about shooting the ball, because Draymond Green catches the ball in the right corner. Again, there's only a handful of seconds left on the shot clock, so there's not a whole lot else the Warriors can do. Up by 4, at this point, 37 seconds left in the game. And what Draymond Green does is immediately on the catch. It's one motion as he catches the ball, and then he turns to pass it to Steph in the left wing. In one motion. There's not even a split second of hesitation that is going to do anything else. And you know what years and years and years of tape show? Draymond does that over and over and over again. And how do defenses defend that? they don't even care about contesting a Draymond shot because they know it's not coming. They know he's just going to skip past to wherever Steph Curry is. And Steph happened to be on the wing next to Draymond. And guess what happens? As Draymond tries to throw that ball into Steph, there's absolutely no room to make that pass, and it results in a turnover. And you gave Detroit life when they did not deserve to have life. Like, that is, I don't know if that's kind of what Frank was getting at. That's an example of a veteran Warriors team that at times does not play like a veteran Warriors team. Like, they play like a young team. And that makes these kinds of mistakes time and time again. It happens all the time. And that's just an example that really frustrates me. Because, again, it isn't Draymond, you got to take the shot. It's Draymond, at least like catch the ball, line up the shot, get your feet set, take a beat to get in rhythm, and then go up like you're going to shoot. And guess what? You're going to draw the defense, and then you could dump it off to Steph. I know the shot clock is running down. You still have a couple of seconds, though. It doesn't take that long. Just don't do the in-one motion catch, pass, get the ball away from me as quick as I can. Make the defense think you're thinking about shooting, and it's going to open up other stuff. He does the same thing at times when he's around the rim. It's one of, I think, the issues of Draymond Green, the offensive basketball player. It isn't even that you have to shoot and you have to shoot a high percentage. It's at least make the defense think that you might shoot. Because so often defenders don't even have to even pay a second's worth of attention to Draymond because they're so confident he's not even going to shoot. He very rarely feels comfortable taking that shot. And again, you don't have to shoot it. You just have to make the defense think you might, and they will at least take a little bit of the pressure away from Steph and send them to him. Rant over on Draymond Green. This is ultimately a happy night because the Warriors knock off the Pistons 107-104 in Detroit, and they got themselves a nice win without Kuminga, without Wiggins, without Moody, without Podziemski, without GP2, and on a night where Steph Curry goes just 5 for 21 from the field. All right, let's hear from Coach Kerr. Warriors head coach Steve Kerr addressed the media postgame tonight in Detroit. Again, 107-104 is the final score. The Warriors led by Gui Santos' energy, and I know Steve Kerr was happy about that. Here's Coach Kerr postgame.
We just heard the large cheer sound like coming from the locker room. I'm guessing that was Gui Santos.
That was for Gui Santos, yeah.
I mean, it seems like it was pretty deserved, considering.
Well deserved, you know. We talked before the game about how many battles can you win, little battles in the game, box out, loose ball. He won 1 million battles tonight. That's what wins games, you know. And he's been waiting all year, and he finally got his chance, and he delivered. And that's what this league is about. Ron Adams talks about it all the time. It's a production league. You get your chance, you got to take advantage of it. Gui was brilliant. And this game is about so much more than whether you make a shot or miss a shot. It's defense, it's rebounding, it's hustle, sprinting. It's everything you saw Gui do tonight. That's what wins games. So that's why he got the ovation, because the guys recognized that. He was fantastic.
Given all the injuries to the roster, did you know he would play a big factor tonight?
Yeah. We knew he would play. We didn't know if he'd play a big factor, but we knew he'd play. And he came in and immediately made his imprint on the game.
In that first half in particular, how did that physicality lead, defensively lead to offense? What did you see? What kind of synergy did you see defensively and offensively? Well,
again, I'll go back to Gui and the little plays, the digging out loose balls, finding ways to impact the game. I thought Loon was great. This happens every year. I take Loon out of the lineup, bring him back, and then I'm like, why did I take Loon out of the lineup? He's a winner. So I just thought there were a lot of guys who really contributed tonight to what you're talking about, defense to offense, the game connecting. That's why we had multiple runs. Our defense led to good offensive possessions. Buddy was great, knocked down shots, but also, defense off the ball, staying connected. And then Dennis, as well. I mean, we're so lucky to have Dennis. His defense on Cade Cunningham, that would have been Wiggs' guy tonight. And without Wiggs, we decided to put Dennis on him, try to get underneath him with his speed, and I thought Dennis did a great job of that.
Yeah, Steve Kerr, I mean, I agree on all fronts. A lot of the praise there went to Gui Santos. It seems like the Warriors, just before Steve Kerr was getting set to talk with the media down there in Detroit, there was a little mini celebration for Gui Santos in the locker room, at least just an acknowledgement of what he did to help the Warriors win that basketball game. Got a little bit loud. Sounds like it was fun. And Steve Kerr then piling on the praise for Gui Santos post-game as well. I heard Draymond Green talk about this post-game as well, and it was a good question by Bob Fitzgerald on NBC Sports Bay Area. A lot of times when things aren't going great, maybe it's a little bit, it's not what you would think. It's kind of counterintuitive, but going on the road can kind of simplify things and make it easier. And maybe it's a way that the team can get out of a rut. And you build a little bit of chemistry because it's just you and the dudes. It's just you and the rest of the team, right? You don't have, your family isn't around. You don't have the distractions of home. Like, you're just on a business trip. And it's, team dinners. And it's team events or little get-togethers or whatever you're doing on your off day in a city that you haven't been to in a while or whatever the case is. Like, that is an opportunity for a team to kind of bond. And it feels like that's kind of a moment that happened in the locker room postgame. And, this isn't a moment to, wipe that off and think that it's not a factor. Like, this Warrior team needs everything right now. This Warrior team needs everything. And that's a nice little thing that maybe, kind of helps wipe away the bad taste that has been in their mouth. Not just their last two games, two of their worst games of the year to the Kings and to the Heat at home, but really for the last 2 months now. It might help chip away at some of these, rough patches that the Warriors have been going through. But Steve Kerr absolutely right about Gui Santos. Talked about all the little battles that they talked about pregame, and it was what Steve Kerr was talking about postgame on Tuesday after a really rough Warriors loss against the Heat. You got to have the competitive spirit, and Gui Santos had certainly had that competitive spirit. Steve Kerr said, quote, "Gui won a million battles tonight. That's what wins games." Steve Kerr also talked about how, this game is about so much more than just shooting. It's about doing all the other things, and Gui Santos is doing all the other things. 888-957-9570. That's the number to call or to text to join the conversation here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. How about this statistic for you? Buddy Hield has been a barometer for the Warriors all year. We know how hot he started the season, and it's no coincidence. When he was going good, the Warriors were going good. A 12-3 beginning to this season for the Warriors. How about this? When Buddy Hield scores 18 or more points this year, when Buddy Hield scores 18 or more points this year, the Warriors are 9-0. 9-0. Undefeated when Buddy gets to 18. And it hasn't happened before tonight since December 8th. We're talking about over a month ago, the last time that Buddy Hield scored at least 18 points. The Warriors, though, a perfect 9-0 when Buddy Hield scores at least 18 points. It's not quite as simple as saying, all right, Buddy, get you to 18 and we're going to win no matter what, because you could get there with 30 shots if you really wanted to. But there is clearly a correlation between Buddy's efficient shooting nights and the Warriors being a good basketball team. There is such a clear line between those. Those two things are so intertwined that it's hard to not look at Buddy Hield as the key to this basketball team, at least this specific roster. Things can change with an acquisition or two before the deadline. But if this is the Warriors roster going forward, one, it's going to be rough. Like, I don't think this team has enough at the moment. But if this is going to be the Warriors roster, if you get a Buddy Hield that makes 4 threes on 10 attempts a night, they're going to be an entirely different team than if you get a Buddy Hield that goes 1 for 7 from downtown. Like, it's just the reality of it. And I know it's kind of simple on the outside. Like, obviously, you want all your players to shoot better. But Buddy Hield making the shots he just gives the Warriors a different look offensively because suddenly you have another shooter who defenses have to fear. I mean, it's been like the downside of the Warriors offense all year is you just don't have enough shooters to go around. And it's why the Jimmy Butler acquisition doesn't really make a ton of sense to me because I don't know what other rotations that really makes work. Like, it's going to have to be a grinded out style of basketball. Not that the Warriors can't win that way, but I think the ideal acquisition is a floor spacer, whether that's from a big spot, a 4 or 5, or from a wing. You need someone that can shoot. Good news for the Warriors is there are some shooters available on the trade market before the February 6th deadline, which is fast approaching now, less than a month away. But you need shooting. Buddy Hield is one of the few players on the team at the moment that can do that, or should be able to do that. Has proven in his NBA career that he can do that. Dennis Schröder is kind of there as well. I also thought Steve Kerr was very accurate in applauding Dennis Schröder for his effort. It wasn't his best day offensively. Schröder scored 13 points, but 5 of 11 from the field, 1 of 5 from downtown. You would really like to see his three-point shot begin to fall a little bit more. His shot hasn't been like a super quick release at any point in his career. But, I mean, he's often shot better than he has with the Warriors so far. If he gets that three-point shot falling a little bit more often, this feels like a different Warriors team as well. But other than the shooting from outside, Dennis Schröder was good in this basketball game. He had a couple. When the Warriors tried to lose this basketball game down the stretch, again, they led by 18 with 5.5 to go in the fourth, and ultimately Detroit got within 2 late in the basketball game. The Warriors' only offense was Dennis Schröder getting to the line, getting to the rim and scoring. He had a couple of layups, a couple of push shots around the rim in the final couple of minutes that was enough to stave off the Pistons' rally. Without Schröder down the stretch, the Warriors lose this basketball game. Without Gui Santos in the first half, the Warriors lose this basketball game. Without Lindy Waters III and his 3 made threes in the second quarter, the Warriors lose this basketball game. And no, by the way, before I put a bow on the Dennis Schröder talk today, he also was very good defensively in the first half against Detroit's best player in Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham got going in the second half. He finished with 32, 8 and 6. A hell of a night for Cade Cunningham. It's kind of just ho-hum for him. That's how good he is. But he was really good defensively in the first half in this game as well. I mean, Cade Cunningham, I have the numbers here for you in just a second. Cade in the first half, 7 points, 3 of 8 from the field. That's more field goal attempts than points for Cade in the first half. Awesome job defensively by Dennis Schröder, who did not guard him for every single second that Cade was out there in the first half, but he was the primary defender. It would have been Kevon Looney's guy, but tonight it was Dennis Schröder's guy. That's a tough cover defensively. And then you're asked to kind of be the initiator at times offensively, especially when Steph Curry is off the floor. That's a hell of a night for Dennis Schröder. 888-957-9570, the 262 chiming in here on the Comcast Business text line. I'm glad you brought this up, 262. Buddy start to the second half was crucial. Yeah, Buddy in this basketball game finished with 19 points, 5 of 11 from deep. He scored 8 quick to open the third quarter, helped push the Warriors' lead back up to 17 points early in that third. Now there was a Pistons run, and then another Warriors run in response, and then another Pistons run. But the first punch thrown by the Warriors in the second half was Buddy Hield, 8 quick, 2 threes, and a lay-in. 8 quick in the first 2.5 minutes of the third quarter. Warriors probably lose this game without that as well. And I think in general, obviously seeing shots fall is great, but the major takeaway for this one, and now the challenge is to see if this continues, it is the Warriors' energy, and it's the effort, and it's the way that they played this basketball game, in those in-between moments. Not a defensive possession, not an offensive possession. When the ball is free, right? It is up for grabs. You don't know who's about to gain possession. Do you win those battles? And the Warriors won those battles tonight. You just look at the offensive rebounding numbers in this one. The Warriors, 15 offensive rebounds. they had 6 players, the Warriors did, that had at least 2 offensive rebounds in this basketball game. That means it's not just a one-man show. It's not just Gui Santos who had 3. It's not just Kevon Looney who had 3. But Kyle Anderson had 2 offensive boards. Who else? Draymond Green had 2 offensive boards. Trayce Jackson-Davis had 2 offensive rebounds. Steph Curry had 2 offensive rebounds. It is up and down the roster, that kind of energy. And offensive rebounds are great, but they only really matter if you're turning them into second chance points. And by the way, when we look through all like the hustle stats and the hustle categories in this one, there's really only one that stands out as a major edge, and it was second chance points in favor of the Warriors, 21-6. In a game in which you win by 3, you outscored your opponent on the second chance points by 15 points. Difference of the basketball game right there. That energy, that effort won the Warriors the basketball game, and it was Gui Santos who was the ringleader in that one. Now, it does kind of make you wonder, well, where has that been all season, specifically the last couple of months? Because there has been a number of times where I guarantee you all have noticed it as well. It just kind of feels like the Warriors are kind of standing around. They're lollygagging. They're tired. And, you can obviously set yourself up for success in shooting and playing defense and all of that. But those rebounds and that effort and diving on the floor for loose balls and fighting for extra possessions, that is something that is 100% in your control. That is purely decision. I want to fight for this basketball, and I'm giving it all I got. Nothing can stop you from putting that effort in. So many things can stop you from making a 3 on the left wing. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. Again, you can set yourself up for success, but sometimes it's your night, sometimes it's not. That is not the case with what we saw from Gui Santos, and I think the rest of the roster followed suit. So why hasn't that been happening in the past? And how can you make sure it happens going forward? Because that is going to be the key for the Warriors, right? Like, if you're not just this incredibly talented team, like think back to the KD era Warriors, right? When you tried it out there, Steph and Clay in their primes, and Kevin Durant and Draymond Green in their primes, right? And you even had Kevon Looney, who's a pretty solid player, and you've got all these others coming off the bench. You can just out-talent teams like nearly every single night, and that's why there were times when the Warriors would kind of just go through the motions in a half, and they'd go into the second half down by 17, and then they come out and put up 50 points in the third quarter and win that basketball game. Like, because they could do that. They were talented enough to do that. But if you're the Warriors, and honestly, like honest to God, most nights the Warriors are out-talented. Steph is as talented as any. But like Cade Cunningham is an incredible basketball player, and he's miles better than anyone not named Steph on the Warriors right now. Generally, the Warriors get out-talented most nights. Most nights in the NBA. So how do you overcome that? You overcome that with that energy and that effort and that willingness to put your body on the line to gain your team an extra possession. And we haven't seen that consistently enough from the Warriors so far. We saw it tonight, and Gui Santos led the way. All right, final thing to take care of here before we get on out of here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. That is crashing the boards, which is brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. I was just talking about the same kind of thing, the energy and the effort and the willingness to go for it. Every single loose ball. I talked about specifically the Warriors on the offensive glass. They were on the glass in general. 2 players in double figures for the Warriors tonight on the boards. Also Kevon Looney, who had 8. Hard to choose here. Trayce Jackson-Davis and Stephen Curry, both with 10 rebounds. We'll give out a dual crashing the boards honor to those two. Trayce Jackson-Davis did it in 26 minutes. Steph Curry did it in 36 minutes. Steph Curry, though, did it, of course, as one of the shortest players on the court. So give him a little tip of the cap for that. Give TJD a tip of the cap for how he did it in just 26 minutes. 10 rebounds in 26 minutes. That's more than a rebound every 3 minutes. He was pretty darn good in this one as well. Those two, both with double-digit rebounds, both with double-digit points. TJD, a plus 16. How about that? TJD led the way in the plus-minus. Plus 16. Stephen Curry was a minus 14. This is one of those weird games where the Warriors outscored where Steph is on the floor. and they still win. The Warriors outscored by 14 points when Steph Curry was on the court. When he was off the court, the Warriors outscored the Pistons by 17. I'll take small sample size because that's what that was. You will not see that often. The Warriors dominate the non-Steph minutes. They get dominated in the Steph minutes, and they win a basketball game 107-104. But again, it's Steph Curry and TJD who get our crashing the boards honor, which again is brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. Again, the Warriors, they win this one 107-104 is the final score. The Dubs down 19-18. The Pistons fall to 500 at 19-19. Up next for the Warriors, they are in Indiana tomorrow. They're traveling to Indiana tonight. Short little flight from Detroit to Indianapolis. The Warriors tip off at 4 tomorrow in Indiana, which means our pregame coverage begins at 3 here on 95.7 The Game. You will hear myself and Dan Dibley. I'm in for Willard tomorrow on Willard and Dibs, and we've got you covered on Warriors Live beginning at 3. And then I'll have you as well for the postgame show here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game after the game tomorrow as well. That is game 2 of a 4-game roadie. The Pistons tonight, Indiana tomorrow, Toronto north of the border on Monday, and then you wrap up the 4-game trip with the Timberwolves in Minnesota next Wednesday. With the win, the Warriors again back above 500 at 19-18. Before I get on out of here, I want to remind you you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco and Odyssey Sports Station. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. For a low-rate auto loan, apply online or just ask for First NorCal financing at the dealer. Dubs win 107-104. Got win number 1 on this 4-game road trip. They're going for win number 2 in attempt number 2 tomorrow in Indiana. The pregame coverage begins at 3 right here on 95.7 The Game. For Cam Williams, for Steven Risotto, I'm Mark Randy signing off. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk tomorrow right here on 95.7 The Game.